It is Graham here, living the dream in September 2023, and at the time of editing this episode, Fiona and I have been back from Lanzarote around 3 weeks. As you can see from the introduction card, this is the very last video in our Lazing in Lanzarote 2.0 mini-series. And it catalogues our journey from the H10 White Suites in Playa Blanca back to Glasgow Airport using Jet2 via one of their private transfers and of course their scheduled 737 service from Lanzarote back to Glasgow. While this episode brings Lazing and Lanzarote 2.0 to a close, we've got lots more to bring you on the channel. Fiona and I have booked our October trip this year and I'll be telling you a little bit more about that in a future episode. We've even booked the big adventure that I promised you for July 2024. It's going to be a while before I bring you something on that trip, but I do promise you guys it's going to be something a little bit special. Fiona and I are so excited about it. We've got the flights booked. I think there is 7 flights involved in that particular trip, and yep, we're pretty well crossing the entire world to get to our ultimate destination. So that's going to be a big one for 2024. So for now, we're going to finish Lazing and Lanzarote 2.0. Hope you've enjoyed this series, and I hope you enjoy this episode following Fiona and I as we make our journey back to Glasgow from Lanzarote. Hi, I'm Graham, and this is my wife Fiona, and we have always had a work hard, play hard philosophy. From London to New York, and of course the Caribbean, we live our dream through travel. And of course, the odd cocktail. And here on YouTube, we create our memories while living our dream. So come and join us as we share our memories with you. In the last episode, you left Fiona and I enjoying lunch on our last day, Lazing in Lanzarote in early August 2023, before we made the 10-minute walk back to the H10 White Suites to collect our bags from left luggage, before waiting on the Jet2 private transfer service picking us up from this very hotel and driving us the 40 minutes or so back to Lanzarote Airport. And from memory, we'd sat down less than 10 minutes when we spotted the minibus pulling up at reception, which based on memory, Fiona and I assumed was our transfer back to Lanzarote Airport. And when we first visited Lanzarote back in February this year, we'd also used the Jet2 private transfer service, which added a little bit extra to the cost of our Jet2 packaged holiday, and to be quite honest, was worth every penny. Back in February, this private transfer service contracted by Jet2 picked us up from the Playa Hotel in Puerto del Carmen, bang on schedule, and it was no different in August 2023. Our Jet2 contracted private transfer collected us bang on schedule for the 40 to 45 minute drive south from Playa Blanca back to Lanzarote Airport. Just like in the other Canary Islands that Fiona and I had visited over the decade, the road network and quality here in Lanzarote is pretty good. However, unlike Tenerife, there's not a motorway or a dual carriageway until you get within 7 or 8 kilometres of the airport itself. But it's a pretty straight road, making for a very comfortable transfer between the airport and your hotel, and of course vice versa in this case. Because on Fiona's and my inbound journey to Playa Blanca 10 days earlier, we weren't able to bring you any of this fantastic scenery because our journey from the airport to the hotel was done at night, and as a result it was impossible to film anything. And for those of you who've followed this channel for a while will already know that I love the desert landscape of Arizona, and in reality the scenery that you find here in Lanzarote isn't that different to what you would find in the southwestern United States. And it was at about this point in the journey that the road got wider. We joined the dual carriageway, which meant we were within about 10 minutes of the airport. And with the control tower in sight, we were within touching distance of Lanzarote Airport. As we entered the airport terminal, just like back in February, there was plenty of Jet2 ground staff on hand, directing their customers towards check-in. But unlike February, the Jet2 check-in here at Lanzarote Airport had moved, because as we entered the terminal building, I was expecting to see straight ahead of me lines and lines, queues upon queues of TUI passengers waiting to check in for their flights. It was therefore a little bit of a surprise to see Jet2 were checking in this part of the Lanzarote terminal at this time of year. I guess they moved things around to suit the winter and summer schedules. But just like back in February when we checked in for a flight back to Glasgow, there were practically no lines at all, and this lovely Jet2 agent directing their customers towards the appropriate check-in desk. Just like many low-cost airlines here in Europe, Jet2 enable you to print your boarding passes weeks in advance. So a week or two before we headed to Lanzarote, I was able to print boarding passes for both our flights out to Lanzarote and back to Glasgow. And just like back in Glasgow, our check-in here at Lanzarote was simple and easy. And as a result, Fiona and I were now heading towards security, which you will appreciate, guys, I didn't film. And straight after security, we were forced to walk through the duty-free shop, which seems to happen at most airports in Europe these days. However, for me, the good news was that Fiona had done all of her duty-free shopping in Glasgow on the way out to Lanzarote, so there was no duty-free shopping here in Lanzarote on the way home. I remembered from our visit to Lanzarote Airport back in February, there was an outdoor area where you could sit and watch the planes. And that's where Fiona and I were heading right now, or so we thought. Because unfortunately, the outdoor area was closed for refurbishment. So it's Graham and Fiona living the dream on Sunday, the 6th of August 2023. Yep. And we're at Lanzarote Airport. I think I said this in the last video, it is a bit of a dump. But, you know, it's too small for the amount of people that I carry. But anyway, we're here and we're on our way home. Back to Glasgow.
Wasn't slow.
Security was fine. That's it.
This side's busy, but the security was fine.
So that's us on our way back to Glasgow. And from memory, we didn't have that long to wait until the gate for our flight back to Glasgow was announced. Jet2's back to front boarding meant that Fiona and I, being in Group 1, would be boarding last. To this day, I still find it counterintuitive, but give Jet2 their due. They were policing this boarding process very well, turning passengers away that weren't in the correct boarding group. Anyway, it wasn't long until it was Fiona's and my turn to board the aircraft, which we'd be doing via JetBridge tonight. But first, we had to have our passports checked for validity, and then our boarding passes were scanned before we headed down the JetBridge. I know you've all heard me say this before, but filming at night from an aircraft is a YouTuber's worst nightmare. At this point in the episode, I've switched over to using my iPhone because it tends to be better in low light. However, I can only apologise for this departure sequence, guys. It is just a fact of life that filming at night isn't great. There really isn't very much to say about this evening's flight back up to Glasgow. It took around 4 hours and 20 minutes, but I had pre-ordered these pizza twists using one of the many offers Jet2 had emailed to me several weeks before we travelled out to Lanzarote. I genuinely thought they were part of a meal deal, but the near £9 just got us these 2 pizza twists, and we had to order drinks and snacks separately. But actually, the pizza twists were very good, and Fiona and I would recommend them to anyone as a decent snack on your Jet2 service wherever you're going. So in the early hours of Monday morning, the bright lights of Glasgow come into view, where we'll be making our approach into the southwesterly runway. That's runway 23. And that's it, guys. Fiona and I are safely back in Glasgow, and as we taxi back to the gate at around 1:40 on Monday morning, it's time to bring this episode to an end, which also means I'm bringing the entire Lazing in Lanzarote 2.0 miniseries to an end. But just to sum up on this Jet2 service from Lanzarote back to Glasgow, I do believe that Jet2 delivered for Fiona and I once again. However, on October's trip, we're not flying on Jet2. Fiona and I do believe we're getting a little bit too old for these middle of the night flights. So we based our decision on what tour operator to use based on their flight times, which in the case of October's trip wasn't Jet2. Of course, there will be a lot more about our trip in October in a future video. But as we pull up to one of the international stands at Glasgow in the early hours of Monday morning, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for watching this video. And if you've followed the entire Lazing in Lanzarote 2.0 mini-series, well done. The vast majority of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to our channel. And it would mean the world to Fiona and I if you would please consider hitting the subscribe button and then the bell icon to be notified when our next video is published. So until that next video, take care and thank you so much for watching.